Once you've started recording, oh, there, it
Yeah,
starts, isn't it?
thank you.
Excellent. I'll make a start then. I believe most of you have seen the Open Eyes version 4 before. And what I'll be showing you is things have moved on, or maybe not. I can see people surprised. Okay, never mind. We will show you most of it then. Okay. Let me share my screen now. Right, so this is the Open Eyes screen. You can make it light or dark themed. I personally like the light, but many clinicians like the dark themed in rooms where there is testing going on, or so I've been told. Okay, so how would you access your patients? You could search by hospital number or name in this little box here. Or if you're having a day full of like a day full of patients and you've accessed the patient record previously, you'll be able to see them in this little icon here. So this is the patient I was accessing before we started the session. So that's why it's showing in my last accessed list. Now, let me take you to the patient record. So the first screen you see is like a patient overview. It's got the most recent clinical data. But this is my test patient and doesn't have any information. We'll keep coming back to this screen as and when we populate data into the patient. So what in Open Eyes, everything is an event. So when I click on this little button called Add Event, you are expected to select a subspecialty you're working in. So cataract is already selected, but if you're not working in cataract, the entire list will be available to select from here. Now you might see some things that are slightly different to how you work in your hospital, but this is a play domain we use for demonstrations, so don't get too worried. When we implement a solution for you, it will be for you. Right, so let us start with a cataract. Now contexts are like we could call them pathway names. For clients tend to use it for the cataract new clinic or cataract day of surgery, cataract post-op clinic, and set up examination events accordingly. I will show you what I'm talking about in a minute. So let's say this patient is coming for a clinic today and I want to record an examination. Examination is where most of the clinical data goes. So here is the examination event. Now we have each of these individual blocks are called elements. And you can either configure that in this particular department for this particular clinic, the first step, say a technician sees them or a nurse sees them, they see these elements to fill in. So that is completely configurable, and we will do that for you before you take the system live. Or there is a manage elements here. If you click on it, you'll be able to see all possible elements available to record data. It can be as a pop-up, or you can clip it to the left side column by clicking here. So let's start filling in. So you record history. You also have you can use pre-templates and it'll pick up what you've selected and put it in the history. And I'll say click to add. Systemic diagnoses, I could either say no systemic diagnoses, or I could add a diagnosis. An approximate time would also do. Then comes the allergy check. Now you see on this top of the patient record, these things will be always accessible wherever you are in the system or in the patient record. So allergies and alerts or risks is what pop up here. So right now you'll see allergy status is unknown and it's not showing as a red, it's gray. So we can add an allergy to see what happens. Okay. Right. Ophthalmic surgical history. Let's say the patient is coming for the first time to us. They don't take any eye medication, but yeah, systemic medication, maybe they take metformin. One tablet daily. And this medication history keeps building up. So even if you prescribe something for the patient, it'll keep building up the medication history. The next thing we come to is risks. Either you can configure you can configure your own list of risks and which ones you want to mandate for checking. Not checked, yes and no. You can also add other risks. Family history is something you can add from which about which relative you're trying to get the history, the side, maternal, paternal, and the condition. These are very configurable, and each client configures them according to their needs. Social history, you can select whatever is applicable. Observations, so you can do a list of observations. No need to do all of them. You can do them every few minutes or once in the clinic, up to you. It depends on what you are recording. I could perhaps do a blood pressure, oxygen, and height, and that's it. Visual acuity. Now we have the VA scale. So depends on what you use in your organization. And then you enter the value here. Similarly, for refraction, if you've done a refraction, I'm non-clinical, so do apologize if all these look very made up. So this is how you would record your refraction readings if you've done a refraction. Now, drug administration, for example, if the nurse put in dilating drops. So there's something called PGDs and PSDs, which I'm sure you're well aware of. And that gives a special permission to the nursing staff to administer drugs without explicitly having to take a consultant's prescription, etc. So we could set them up, or you can simply select, I mean, if you were a consultant, then you'd simply select what drug, say, and oh, that's not a very good example. Drops, there you go. So I've administered the drop, and that's where I want to record that, yeah, I've administered it and the time, and click on record as administered. So that will have an accurate record of who, when administered it to the patient. Then comes the IOP readings, various instruments, and the readings. So after we filled in all the information, I'm going to click on confirm and save. And at this point, you can save it as draft as well, but we recommend you say confirm and save and go back to edit it if there is an issue, you've forgotten something, etc. So I'm going to click confirm and save. And if I've forgotten something, it will remind me, hey, you forgot this field. And when I go there, I had forgotten to say no family history, or I hadn't added any family history. So I've done that now, and I'm going to click confirm and save. And that's my examination recorded. So now if I go to the patient summary, you'll see slowly and slowly the information is starting to build up. Let me show you a prescription event. So if you want to prescribe drugs for the patient, you'd go into the prescription event and you can configure these lists according to subspecialties you work in. And you fill in the information. Now, there are a few options here. You could either print an FP10 and give it to them to take to a pharmacy outside the hospital, or you could say hospital to supply, or GP to supply, or patient self-supply. So if I select hospital to supply, just to show you how the prescription looks at the end. Now, there's something called a PIN sign for most clinicians in the system, and the signature is controlled via an electronic PIN. So in the top here, can you see my, 1 second. Sorry for making it so big, but here there is the name of the person who's logged in, the site they work in, and the context they're working in. So if I click on profile, maybe not, I'll open it in a different tab. Now this is my user profile, and if I go to signatures here, you can capture your own signature, which comes in all your letters, prescriptions, consent forms, CVIs, etc. And that you can draw into the patient record by using your PIN code. So generally I don't remember my PIN code, so I go in and check every time because I use multiple domains. So here I'm gonna put in my PIN and sign, and it'll give me the name of the signatory, the time and date, and the signature. Now I'm going to save and print. And if we give ourselves a second, this is how the prescription looks like. So it's got the patient demographics, the allergy status, hospital supply, because I selected hospital supplies. And then there is a section for pharmacy use. They generally would say screen, dispense, checked, etc. And at the bottom, it'll say who signed it, the signature, date and time. So that's that. Now, I forgot to show you that when I recorded the signature, oh, sorry, when I recorded the allergies in the previous examination event that I showed you, this little box here has now turned red. It was gray earlier. Let me go back to normal sized screens. So it's turned red because I said, okay, the patient has palpitations when they take this particular medication. And there were a few alerts that I added. So that's where it's gone and sapped. Now, there are a few other pop-ups I'd like to show you. The first is the allergies and alerts, which we've talked about. The next is the demographics kind of pop-up. It will give the patient ID, or the hospital number typically, the demographics, which we typically pull from PAS, and the GP that has come from PAS, and any further patient contacts like optoms or optoms generally. The next little tab is management summaries, and as and when the doctor starts populating or the clinicians start populating diagnoses or clinical management, what's to do next, this section keeps populating. And this list, because it's my demo patient, it has an appointment every day at 9, but in reality you will have a list of the patient's real appointments in this section. The last one gives a clinical overview of the patient, and it's got diagnoses, both ophthalmic and systemic. It's got any list of procedures, medications, any ophthalmic medications, family history, social history, and on the top you'll have the clinical readings as well. So this keeps getting updated with every examination we add. Now, anybody, any questions at this point about examinations or prescriptions?
I've got a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, yes.
Yeah. So what about if you want to draw some diagrams, or are there already pre-made diagrams which we can alter in cataract assessment and fundoscopy? So that's one of my questions. And the second is this cataract examination, can we use it for audit purposes?
Yes, all data is auditable, and whatever you input is recorded in the database with the proper audit trail. So yes, it is all auditable. And with respect to your other question about the drawings, I'm going to show you an element because there are so many elements. That's why we just took a section of it, but I will show it to you. I'll remove the other things, and there's something called a freehand draw. Now, you can create templates, for example. So your administrator will be able to create as many as you want, and they can upload pictures for you, and you can annotate the image. You can draw things here, add labels saying so it's like a drawing tool. You can annotate it and draw in it, put arrows. So it's quite flexible and customizable, and I think this is what you are asking, isn't it?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So I'm going to save this, and it will always stay in the patient's record. There's another way you can use something called a document event. Now, if I go into the document event, you can set up templates. for yourself. For example, if you want like a WHO checklist done like on paper and scanned in, you can upload documents in here like referral letters, or you can upload photographs and annotate them in a similar fashion to the freehand drawing that I've shown you. So it's quite flexible in those terms. So they are available to you, and as the project progresses, we will work closely with the project team to identify how we can customize these things to your benefit and what you can use, etc. Does that answer your question?
Sure, yes, yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sorry, I can't see the other screen, so you'll just have to speak.
Yeah, and Shinjini, you know, on the demographics page,
Yes.
can you add if a patient's diabetic or if they've got glaucoma or if they've got AMD, so you can put almost cohorts onto them?
You can add them as diagnoses, yes. But I don't understand. Are you asking them, me, if we can add diagnoses into demographics?
Well, just so we know what the diabetic population is. So obviously we know when they've got the follow-ups due, or you know who your glaucoma patients are, and you can filter them out. Like Mr. Zaheen said, I think it's quite useful to audit them, so you know when they've had last appointments or when they're due next appointments.
There are reports you can run in the system to do that.
Yeah.
But from a front-end perspective, you just have what is there, and I've shown you. So per patient, this is how you would see. There's also a functionality called work lists. Do you schedule your patients in pairs?
Yeah.
So we'll link into your pairs and get your patient lists for various clinics. I mean, these are just dummy ones, but they'll actually say the clinic name and the date when it's linked up with your pairs. And it'll pull through your patients here. So you can change this list as per date, or like you have various filtering options on this list. So you could, sorry, you could only see one list, or you could put a date in there to see next week what patients do you have. So it's quite customizable, but this is a dynamic real-time list. But if you want to generate, there are things like audits and reports for which we will train you up.
Yeah.
And that should help you.
So just to confirm on the diagnosis, is the predefined options where you can, like I say, you can mention that a patient's got, you can tick a
Yes.
glaucoma box, you can tick a diabetes box, so we know
That's
these
right.
patients have them. Yeah.
So if you go into like examination, it's not a tick in the box kind of thing, but if I go into a diagnosis, let me remove the other things. There you go. So here, this list is customizable based on what subspecialty you are in. So for cataract, I have set up in my play system this list of commonly occurring diagnoses, and that's where you would add your ophthalmic diagnosis and see if it's the principal or not. And you confirm and save.
Okay.
But in the cataract list, I'm sure there will be a list of comorbidities as well. For example, if you've got a cataract patient and the patient has got glaucoma, AMD, diabetic retinopathy, comorbidity, so that we can do risk scoring. Is that all options? I'm sure that it would be available.
So any comorbidities, if they are say systemic, for example, then you would add them. I'm just showing you where you would add them. So if it's a systemic comorbidity, that's where you would add them, say asthmatic patient. Or if they have glaucoma, for example, you'd add them in here. I mean, these lists are completely customizable.
Sure.
So you can add that here. and say confirm and save. Okay, that was lame. So you'd have 2 ophthalmic diagnoses and 1 systemic diagnosis. And yes, it is auditable again. So that is how.
Sorry, did you say 2 ophthalmic? So you can't do more than 2 ophthalmic?
No, you can do many. You can do many.
Yeah.
Of course you can. Yeah. You can do as many as you want. Let's hope the patient is not so poorly, but yeah. So that is possible to do. Any other questions?
What about writing letters? Say if I want to write a letter, yeah.
So I was just coming to that.
Yeah.
So what we call letters correspondence in OpenEyes, and you can set up letter templates depending on the situation of the patient or the kind of clinic. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here you can set up templates. Most clients have like long lists of templates, but obviously filtered by the type of subspecialty and the context you're working in. And it pulls in information like you see from various places. Let's see a different one. Okay, let's see, because we've only done a 1 examination recording. So as you can see, the diagnosis pulls in procedures. So these letter templates are very customizable by the administrator. And for example, we have letter macros, and we can say, so if you go into each letter macro, you'll see these in the square brackets. These are all information that pull in from the clinical record if populated. And if you want to see a full list of what is available in the system, just a minute, I'll show you. Like, there's a whole list of things that can be pulled into letters and when recorded into in the clinical record. So letters are completely customizable, however you want it to be. And they are pin controlled again. And if I save and print, it'll have the proper, these things can be set up. So that's the letters.
So for example, I've got that letter in front of me and I just change it a little bit. I do of course that's something I could do perhaps myself, but if I have to write a detailed letter to a tertiary center, and I don't find basically a template there. Is there a facility for voice recording for the secretary to type it, or is there something that the clinicians have to do by themselves?
I actually don't understand your question. So you can remove the template and just type in your detailed letter here.
So what my question was that suppose if it's a very detailed letter and I don't have time, but I can do a voice, is there a facility for voice recording for the secretary to type the letter at a later time?
Not here. I mean, there are Chrome extensions where you can directly voice transcribe into the letter itself, but we do not offer a transcribing interface with another system as is.
So basically, it would be something that the clinicians would have to do by themselves, yeah?
Yeah. Any other questions?
So, Shinjini, it's just on one of the optometrists. If we're recording visual acuity, is there a visual acuity chart for early years, or is it? Because I noticed you clicked on Snellen. I just didn't get a chance to see what the options of visual acuity recording was. Because there's probably Logmar on there, I would imagine.
Yeah. Right. So the scales are Logmar 1 DP, Logmar 2 DP, Snellen, and ETDRS. And the scales obviously change as per what you've selected. There's also something like complex inputs, and it has a bit more. So when you get the system, I think it is worth playing around a little bit to see what is more suited to your clinic's requirement. But most of our clients tend to just stick to the simple input and just select what scale and add the value.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anyone, about so far whatever I've shown you? Okay, fine. Let me now show you, do you, okay, consent forms. So before we go to the consent, let us show you the operation booking. We call it booking, but it's actually a request to book. And then the op note and the consent forms, anything associated with an operation. So first, let me show you a request to book an appointment for surgery. So this is done by the clinician. If there is an existing diagnosis for the patient, it will pull through. You can add more if you want. You select what procedure the patient needs, and then fill in if you feel it's a high complexity or a low or a medium. Say what kind of anesthetic type. Anesthetic choice is either preference of the patient or a surgical requirement. If the patient needs to stop any medication, you can add in comments for the scheduling team. That's it really. And if the patient is with you, so you can ask them if they have a preference, morning, evening, or none. And if you want them gone to pre-assessment, you can record what type of pre-assessment. These lists are customizable, these ones. So I'm going to select none for now and say save and schedule later, because you're not doing the actual scheduling. Now, the administrative staff would pick this up from something called a partial booking waiting list, so which has all the requests to book. So my patient is Abraham Lincoln, and if I go to the partial booking waiting list, obviously there'll be many patients here, but they'll be able to see where the patient, what patients have a request to book. And as and when it's time or their turn, the administrative staff would schedule the operation. Now, I don't have any theatre sessions set up other than an emergency list at this point in my play system. So I'll schedule it for the 21st, select the session. And when I select the session, anybody who has been currently booked in that session will show in this list. And generally there is guidance for administrative staff to book how many patients on what list. So that's what I've seen they typically follow. So I've got Karl Marx already booked in for 24 minutes. And now I'm going to put in Abraham Lincoln as well. And I'm going to say confirm. And Abraham Lincoln is now scheduled. What you can print are standard letters saying that this is your operation date, please report at so and so time, any instructions, very customizable. And yeah, on the day of surgery, when they come in, Well, let's go to the day of surgery in a bit. First, let us do consent forms. Now, when I said create consent form event, now you can either pick up a standard form. This patient is 95, so it will only show the form 1, 3, and 4. 2 is for children. So I'll select a 1, the standard one for when the adult has mental capacity giving consent. Now, electronic signature shows, it will start showing up once the event is saved. The next thing is the procedure. Now, if I say cancel here, I just want to show you what difference is there when I select standard form, or if I select a booked procedure or requested procedure. So all our requested and booked procedures will show on the top. And if I do create consent there, then most of the information will have already been populated when the doctor had added the request to book. So you just add in any extra procedures. This list is customizable if they want a biopsy or something. Any leaflets you might have given the patient. There's something called a supplementary consent, which has additional questions you can customize. So I've just put in a blank free text question called type 1 question. You can call it whatever you want. Any special requirements, any patient questions, any refused procedures, any advanced decisions like Jehovah Witness forms, etc. If a witness is required or an interpreter is required, you can record it here, but it doesn't really do anything more than recording the name of the an additional signature would be required by either a witness or an interpreter when the patient signs it. And copies, if they would like to print and take it home as well. So if I say at this point, save and print, the e-sign opens up. And what happens here is the doctor would put in their PIN. Oh dear, how many? Right, so I've signed it and now the patient is in front of me. I don't have a linked device at this point, but I can show you how the e-signature looks like on screen. So typically clients would ask the patient to have a quick whiz through the consent form, which is now pre-filled. And at the bottom of the form, there's a place to sign. And the patient signs in there. And you'll see the patient has signed, the doctor has signed, and that's your consent form done. So in the morning of the surgery, Abraham Lincoln comes in and has a quick chat with the anesthetist to confirm consent. So when the clinician is in the system, they'll be able to see, that's the consent form. And either confirm consent or withdraw consent. So I'll say confirm consent, and whoever is taking the confirmation has to sign as well. Now patient is being taken into theater and we're going to record a op note. So the booked procedures come on the top. If it's an emergency procedure or an outpatient minor ops, it comes at the bottom. I'm going to select this one because it's this procedure the patient has come in for. So fill in, most of the details are pre-filled in from the op booking. All the clinician really needs is to add the operation notes into the comments here. Some procedures have eye draws associated with them. So if I select FACO IOL, a whole extra section of cataract PCRs will come up. but that's only for some procedures. If the biometry has been recorded and pulled into, that's where it would come up. So, I mean, all this you will see when you get the system hands-on to play with. But right now I'll keep it simple and put in how is the local anesthetic delivered, given by whom, any complications and agents, any peroperative drugs. This list is also customizable. Any further comments or post-op instructions. And at this point, there are two options here. One is to generate a post-op letter automatically and to generate a prescription automatically, if that is what you choose to do in your organization. So when I save here, you'll see two things I've generated. This one is the op note, which I've just filled in. Then there is a prescription that has generated, depending on what drug sets I've selected, and a letter called the post-op letter has generated with the details of the surgery. That is also completely customizable. Now, if I take you back to the op note, I should have waited, and there's a way to save templates in the op note for your own self, so you don't have to type in lots and lots of information every time. But yes, I will show that to you eventually. So that is the operation surgery functionality that is there in the system. Do you have any questions around it?
There's just a couple of questions in the chat, if you don't mind me reading them out, and some of them might be going back a little bit, but when we're entering patient information, will the history and the meds be automatically filled, or do they need manually entered each time? So if a patient's coming for multiple appointments, will the histories be there and will the medications be preloaded? Or are you just adding an extra event to that patient?
The answer is yes. So see, I've been playing with this patient, and this one's from the surgery. Everything keeps populating in the patient records. So next time, say in 7 days, the patient comes back and I go into an examination and see medication history, it'll already be populated. What's the next question? Sorry, if somebody...
Yeah, no, one of them was from some of the team whether Open Eyes will share with our ORMIS operating theatre system. So that's part of the interoperability work we're doing with the project team. So we'll look at that separately. Another one was with the operation booking page, and I suppose it's for the staff on the call. Did that look similar to a waitlist page, a waitlist front sheet? Because obviously we're trying to move away from paper-based. We've got all the front sheets that we developed now, but if we're using the EPR, if we tweak it and it's customizable, we might be able to get it just the same way, where we remove the paper-based waitlist sheet, and then it goes into the I believe it's the partial book and waiting list after that.
Yeah.
And just one other query on the wait list was, can you filter out for urgency?
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I said too quickly, didn't I? Now I've scheduled my patient and it's gone. But hey, there are various filters depending on requires scheduling. Then you can sort on these columns. So it's quite flexible.
Okay.
Any other questions in the chat that I can't see?
No, I think I've covered them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anybody? Just, do you do CVI? Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, do you want to repeat? Maybe that's me talking to myself. Okay. Right. So, what else to show?
Mentioned CVI.
Sorry, CVI, yes. So do you record and submit CVIs for patients?
Yeah.
Okay, let's record one for Abraham Lincoln. So add event, and if I do CVI, assuming I'm George Jones, most of the demographics for the form will pull in. You just have to enter the local authority. Maybe mine's not really connected. Generally, this is much connected. I can show you one of the clients' ones, but hey. So there's a search that will pull in from an admin page where all local authorities are set up. And the local authority for the patient pulls in here. Now you consent for GP, local authority, and the RCOP. What's the date you're seeing the patient? And if the clinician is considering the patient SI or SSI. And there are various, it's pretty standard to the CVI form that everyone submits to the RCOP. So I'll go ahead and keep filling. Apologies again if these values seem very weird, but I am really non-clinical. Then comes the diagnosis list. And the main cause. You can also have many of them, but one main cause. And then comes the list of the questions that the clerical team generally fill. At this point, the doctor can do a save draft, and the admin staff can then, or send the ECLO team. I don't know if you have one in your organization, but in Moorfields, they have an ECLO team, and they generally do the signature capture of the patient and the clerical info. Now let us assume I'm also the ECLO team. You fill in all the details. Most of these questions are also customizable, but it is as per standard format. So we don't really recommend changing anything. Okay, I'm going to put in. So I've signed it now, and I'm going to save. So it says CVI is incomplete and missing what? So if I go into my CVI list, which will have a long list, just assume, but this can be filtered by issued, complete, incomplete, which one's missing signature, missing clerical part, and this is how, like, a communication tool between the clinical staff and the ECLO team in most organizations. So if I go and edit it here, there should be a way to capture the patient's signature, similar to the consent form, but a bit longer. Oh, did not want to do that. Oh, I think I have messed up poor Abraham Lincoln's. No. Sorry, I'll have to pick up another patient. This is my play system, and I often muck about and change things I shouldn't and get into trouble. So we're going to add a CVI for another patient. Right. I think that some bit of the functionality is broken in my stable system. So after all necessary parts in the form and the clinical and the clerical and both signatures are available, there's a little issue button on the top, which is clicked, which means it queues up in a list of CVIs that are emailed to the RCOP at the end of the day. So pretty standard functionality. Most trusts use it. So what else would you like to see?
There's a couple of queries, if you don't mind.
Yes,
some of them
please.
we'll take outside the meeting, but Michelle mentioned whether this runs our RTT pathways and coding. I think we talked about this in one of the other meetings. It might be that we need to obviously follow trust-wide RTT, but it's part of the interoperability work we're doing with other systems of how it comes across.
So the RTT work is a future enhancement that we are working on. So right now, most of our clients maintain the RTTs only in their PAS. But there is a way to actually, for the clinician to tell the administrative staff what the next step is for the patient. Let me show you that. There's a follow-up in which you can say, are you going to discharge them, give them a follow or request for a follow-up, at which hospital if you have multiples, and in how many weeks, with a consultant, low-risk patient, confirm and save. So that information is available for staff to see and book in their PAS. But the future plan is to actually enhance this bit and make it customizable to enter RTT codes like you have in your outcome forms in clinics. But that's a bit far away still.
Thank you. Another query from Dr. Shides: will the referral letter be on the system? I imagine we can scan and upload them as we receive them from the referrer.
Yeah, there is a technical, technically, yes, you can use the document event to upload referral letters completely. And you click here and then you just select whatever document and save. So yes, there is a way.
And just going back to the previous query about the RTT, and you mentioned about the follow-up, would the reception team see that on OpenEyes? Obviously, it would update on the patient's history or on the event by date on the left-hand column. What would be the best way for the receptionist to pick up that outcome?
Good point. I'll tell you, in reality, because we don't have the full RTT solution, most of our clients, they still fill up their paper clinic outcome forms. And when the patient leaves clinic, they give it to the receptionist.
Okay.
So that's how they do it today.
We'll work something out locally. That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Heen asked how we access radiology images, and any images from another service, can they be uploaded onto the system?
Yes, you can upload anything if it's in a JPEG format and all in the document event. You also will be integrated for biometries. And Sanjay, do you want to come in here? I'm not very good with integration bits. What kind of things come in from other systems?
So besides the PAS integration, the other integration is device integration. We support Zeiss IOL Masters 500s and 700s. And we also support Zeiss HFAs. We do support other devices, but it's usually on a trial and error basis. We'd ask you to send us a message, and then we would analyze what's come in to work out if it's something we can change quickly and add it into our library to work on, or sometimes we have to build a custom interface, in which case we'll come back and let you know what happens next, as in if there's a cost or if it's in your contract, to have the development done for free. So each customer's got a slightly different contract on devices.
Yeah.
So
Like, and that's part of the asset device integration work we're doing, isn't it, for the testing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But biometries come in. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure on this test system, Shinjini won't have a biometry to import. I should show you how it's imported and shown. Do you have one which is already imported? You can show them. Does
I don't know in reality.
Abraham might have some.
Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
No, not Abraham.
Yes,
Another one had it. That's why. No. Oh, there.
There we go.
So this is a dummy one we've set up of how it looks when the biometry is coming in from another machine, a Carl Zeiss machine. And that's how it is. The clinician will choose a lens at this point, and that flows into the OC note on the day of surgery.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you have the Zeiss forum, that makes your life easier. If you don't, then you have to go around configuring each device to send us information. In forum, you can just direct output feed as a one-off setting.
Yeah. We do have Zeiss forum, and that's our intended route.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Easy on both sides then.
Thank you both. And there's just a question about the consent forms, but I think there's going to be some local policies we need to do for this, because I know it looks very good when a patient can sign electronically. We haven't factored in getting iPads per clinic room, because that would obviously be a huge piece of work. So it might be that we have local processes. There might be some elements that we do where consent forms completed manually and scanned in, but that's just part of the development work as we transition to EPR. So we'll keep in touch with you on that one.
You can use the signature pad, can't you, as well, Shinjini?
Yeah, but we don't currently have them.
Yeah.
But it'll be a separate piece of work.
You can use the signature pad like Shinjini was using it on the screen.
On the screen, yeah. You don't need anything then.
Would it need to be a touchscreen monitor?
No, just
using the mouse.
Okay, we'll build it in locally, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not on the chat, I can see.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wants to see anything else? Any other questions? Okay, I think we have finished before time then.
Anyone want to see anything else while we've got the demo?
Steve, I think it would be nice if we can have a dedicated session where we can actually practice on and play on the system, because then that will generate a lot of questions and queries, and we will then begin to appreciate the importance of it.
Absolutely agree. I think that will all be factored into the project plan.
Exactly. Yeah. What we've done with Nikki and the team is we've created a subspeciality lead. Per subspeciality is an initial person to help support. So obviously other people can link in with that, but we will be sort of using time and using the staff's expertise to help develop this, because we wanted to configure by the clinicians, we want it to be clinically led.
And Steve, just another query. I think maybe that's just for you. When we have this Open Eyes running and we don't have the notes, at the moment, sometimes, we have access to other disciplines, orthopedics, rheumatology, medicines. We can just flip pages and find some information that is not available. So how are we going to, if you've got if lots of information are not available on the referral letter, is there any system, or can we still go, because this Open Eyes will be used only by the ophthalmology department, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right. So obviously this is bespoke ophthalmology EPR. The trust are moving towards a wider EPR. So the longer term plan is all services will move on to the trust-wide EPR, but obviously that's a huge piece of work. And I know Nicky's touched on it in some of the directorate meetings and over the planning meetings that we've had. There will be a transition phase when we get our hands on Open Eyes full, after the testing, where we still have to order notes when relevant, and that's going to be part of like the moving towards. It's going to be a longer process. We can't just flick a switch and move everything to EPR in the trust, but we'll be one of the first services to do it. From our point of view, if we get any new patients completed to the service, we obviously will create them as a new patient and the start from scratch as a digital. If we get patients who've got a bit of an ophthalmic history, we'll develop a process and work with you all to how long we order notes for. Maybe some different subspecialties require notes for a period of time. I'm thinking AMD perhaps, or patients who maybe come for an annual checkup, maybe they only need the notes ordered once, and after that we've transitioned to the electronic. One of the clinicians made a good suggestion. If they feel they've used notes for an appointment and they've used the EPR, if they feel enough information is now on the EPR that the notes aren't needed for the follow-up, we could signify that on the notes and get them archived from an ophthalmology point of view, and maybe tag them and flag them on the EPR so we can understand with transition as many patients digital as we can. But there will be some, I appreciate that'll be some complex ones where you need over department notes that are physical notes. I think that's just some of the building we've got to do as we transition away.
And do you have any idea when do we intend to basically start working on the EPR? Is it 6 months down the line, or
the trust-wide one?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure unless Nick is able to put anything in the chat.
Not the EPR, just the Open Eyes.
Well, the Open Eyes. Well, we're working on some bits and bobs at the minute, so we're looking to get the testing done, if I recall, or the system on our database. It's going through something called Change Advisory Board in IT at the minute. There's just some IT security, typical things when you get with an EPR that just need ratified that Nick is working hard on with IT. It'll go through Change Advisory Board, which is called CAB, which is a weekly meeting. Once that gets approved, the IT security queries get answered, it'll start to push it and we'll start to get the system access. We'll create accounts for everyone. All the staff user details have been sent across to the project team. To help support staff access, we're going to have super users set up, so things like password control and password changes. You'll have local super users that can help you access or any access problems, but we're able to get access obviously as soon as we can, as soon as the IT security queries are answered. But what we can do, I'm quite happy to develop a bit of a weekly update, if that helps, a bit of a summary PDF file that we can send across, just giving people timescales. And I know Dr. Shah's mentioned then about individual sessions. We can build them in to the implementation once we get our hands on it, of getting different members of staff supporting, testing and developing.
Steve, if I just come in on there.
Thanks,
Open Eyes is your EPR system, but the trust has also got another project called Chub Plus, in where the current case notes are going to be totally scanned and available in the Chub. So you will be able to access everybody's case notes electronically using Open Eyes and the Chub Plus. So this is an interim period before the EPR that Nia is probably going to speak about is coming as well. But you will have access, even if you are 6 months down the line with Open Eyes, you could still access the patient's full records digitally in Chub Plus.
So the EPR for the trust, we need to decide which EPR that is yet. So we'll be speaking to Steve about somebody from ophthalmology who can act as a stakeholder to support that. But there isn't a plan to replace OpenEyes in the near future, because obviously you're only just going on to OpenEyes. It's a highly specialised system. So the initial intention for the EPR is that it's going to focus on replacing those services that are paper-based and don't have specialised systems. So OpenEyes, Badgernet, EPMA, they're all parked to look at in 5 to plus years time when your contract comes up for renewal, just to see what you want to do then, which we have to do as part and parcel of procurement guidelines anyway. So you will be getting the system for a period of time. We're not going to put you on it and throw you off again in 6 months. And Steve's already working on a business case to get the revenue funding extended for that. In terms of the question that Karen's raised about lack of computers and laptops, Steve and Nikki, that's maybe something we want to pick up and have a look at that, see where the gaps are across the service and see what we can do about that. With no immediate promises, there's a lot of funding there, but I do want to pick that up sooner rather than later, because there's quite a long wait time on the computers coming into the trust. So for the nursing staff and everyone else, obviously we'd like to get those ordered sooner rather than later if we can get the funds agreed.
So what we've done just on that is we've been round to the clinic sites. I know Jed initially started this, identify all the different clinic rooms and all the main sites and peripheral sites initially to get the dual monitor systems. And I know that part of the Chubb rollout, you've seen the vertical monitors now, which has kind of supported the process. So what we're looking to do, and I know I went into the injection room in Carlisle, for example, there isn't a PC in there, so that's been flagged to Andrew Pescod and the team as a room number without a PC, because we will obviously need, wherever a member of staff would be writing in notes and a patient would be coming into that room, that needs electronic support now, doesn't it? That needs a PC or a laptop, because your long-term intention is you won't have the notes to do it. So it's all factored in. We've been around every single room door code and flagged, is there a PC in there? What's the PC ID? Is it up to spec? Has it got the new monitor? And that's what we sent across to Andrew Pescod and the support teams to identify these areas across all sites. Blaine's entered another query there, and I'll just try and read out. So when you enter and save operational clinic appointments into the draft function in advance, or does it all need and submitted on the day? So I suppose if you're going through an appointment and you're adding things in and saving as draft, is the function then that you'd need to just submit as a one? I think if I'm reading that right, Blaine.
So Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, there is a draft save functionality. Let me share my screen once more and we can take you through that. The draft save is available on examination events. And say you've only filled in bits of it. You can say confirm, oh no, sorry. You can say cancel here. 1 minute. I'm having a bit of a moment.
Examination.
Oh, maybe I haven't got it set up in stable.
Is this the correct? Is this the latest? Oh, maybe, yeah, you're right. We need to actually enable it, don't you?
Yeah. There is a way to do it. If I think somebody else has also disabled it. There is a way to make draft events and continue on the draft events. I can show that to you. I mean, in another session, definitely in my play domain, it's not switched on.
I think what is somebody else is using it as a same
Probably, yes.
and this is the issue. This is a generic environment that we use for customers. So somebody else is probably testing something on here. I switched it off.
I'll have to get it looked by Sammy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't show that to you guys, but there definitely is a proper functionality for saving events through various points. Any other questions?
The last one I had was on the events by date page when you're on a patient episode or patient page. It's chronological, isn't it? And if I remember right, when we seen another demo, you can hover the mouse over the little symbol and it'll maximise, you know, if it's a letter or if it's a scan, just for ease of accessing the history.
Yes, it's called Lightning. Sorry, it's called Lightning Viewer. Let me show you. So this little eye icon here, I don't know if you can see it, but this is what you can hover and refresh over. You can have this panel set to events by date or events by subspecialty or event by type. So it's quite flexible and you can set it up for what you can use it as per your need. I've seen many people use the subspecialty one, so they only see their department's documents in a chronological order, or some prefer to see all of them in case there is like an overlap. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And there's just another query has come in. Can you see simultaneous reports of previous examinations with the current one? So I suppose when we've got the multi-screen functionality, could you bring up if I'm reading this right, Sylvia and Elizabeth, like previous scans, so to compare?
So you can open them in different tabs and
yes.
compare like that.
And you'd obviously have dual monitor to be able to look at them together.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think we've covered all the questions now. Any other questions from anybody else on the call? I'm sure you'll have more questions as and when you start using it. And we're right here to support you till the end. So
well, thank you both.
No worries, happy to help.
Has anyone got anything else at all before we close? Like I say, we'll be linking in with everyone as we move forward as well. But appreciate everyone attending the demo. I mean, it's been recorded, so we'll share it, and we've got a dedicated intranet page that we're going to upload it to as well. So if you feel you need to revisit anything, we can try and transcribe it as best we can. We'll create a little mini frequent asked questions list, you know, because there's been a couple of parallel questions, just so people got some information. And on that page as well, the intranet page, there's a dedicated email address that's sent out an email. So if you've got any specific OpenEye queries, just email across to that, because there's a few of us that can pick them up and respond quite quick. And we can feed them back to Sanjay and Shinjini as well if we feel it needs a bit of supplier support. But I think a lot of it's going to come out with the training. We get a lot of your day-to-day and your general queries will be sort of ironed out as we go through training. Okay. I think that's everything, everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you for your time.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.